This weak virgin boy finds himself with no class in a world where everyone gets a class as their powers. Now he is a loser virgin with no riz and a future as dark as my black hole. In a quiet village, a family eagerly awaits the blessing that will reveal young Aral's class, though he shows little excitement compared to his cheerful sister who insists he will gain the strongest one. Their mother teases that such power would attract many girls, only for the jealous sister to protest that he is too young, while their father recalls his own youth surrounded by admirers. Aral listens silently, uninterested, yet the thought of his class lingers in his mind. In this world, every child receives a class from the goddess at age 10, granting them skills from humble trades like baking to legendary roles like sorcery. When the long-anticipated day arrives, the blessing ritual begins in the village temple. Before the goddess's statue, the priest calls each child, touching his staff to their foreheads to reveal their destiny. One boy is declared a blacksmith, flames and iron resonating from his blessing. Aral's sister boasts of their family's bloodline, certain it will grant her brother greatness, for he is the son of the sword princess Farah and archmage Leon. When Aral's turn comes, the village falls silent in anticipation. Following the priest's instructions, he closes his eyes to receive the goddess's will, but no blessing comes. The priest senses nothing, and the audience murmurs uneasily at the lack of response. After examining the case, he declares that Aral has no class. His sister protests, his parents are disappointed, and later at home, Aral trains with a sword while they comfort him, saying he won't need to work. Aral refuses to be a burden, and his little sister promises to support him. Frustrated at their pity, he tells them he doesn't care about being classless. He has practiced fencing with his mother since childhood and believes hard work will pay off. His mother admires his maturity, his father trusts in his future, and his sister still believes he's the best. Tired of sentiment? Aral heads to the training grounds where two boys spar, boasting about their classes and effortless strength. Recognizing him as the classless boy, they question his presence. Aral says he came to train, but one mocks that real swordsmen don't need training, then resumes dueling to show the power Aral lacks. Each strike resounded with the weight of warriors far older than the children fighting. Observing them, Aral noted that fencing, the first skill any swordsman learns, was already enough to make them dangerous. Yet he refused to remain a spectator and boldly challenged them. The cocky boy laughed at him, mocking his courage, but Aral replied with calm certainty that the fight would still be fair. Angered, the boy demanded to know if Aral bore the goddess of protection. Aral confirmed he did, explaining that divine protection, unlike classes, was a blessing all humans received at birth, forming a hidden shield that dulled damage, though not without pain. Satisfied, the arrogant boy accepted the duel, but in fury charged before it began. Aral blocked and twisted his blade, breaking his guard, then countered each reckless swing with ease until the fight tilted fully in his favor. Refusing defeat, the boy called his partner, who struck from behind, yet Aral dodged and welcomed the challenge, finding the fight valuable training compared to his harsh upbringing. As their attacks grew messy, Aral wondered if those with classes ever learned teamwork, for their coordination was pitiful. Deciding they were weaker than they appeared, he stepped in and struck the scrawny one under the chin with his hilt, dropping him instantly. Only the alpha remained, boasting like a final boss, but when it mattered, he stumbled into his own partner and left himself exposed. Aral struck the back of his neck with the flat of his blade, sparing him from a far bloodier end. Humiliated, the pair still claimed Aral cheated and demanded a rematch, but before it could start, another boy entered the training grounds and told them to stop, reminding them that real enemies don't care about whining. The cocky one cursed him, but his partner warned him to stay quiet, recognizing the redhead as serious trouble. The newcomer walked up to Aral, calling him the son of Fa, the sword princess, since only her child could wield a blade with such skill. He warned Aral not to let victory cloud his judgment and challenged him to a duel to show what a true swordsman could do. A skinny one whispered that the redhead was connected to the captain of the guard, which the boy confirmed, naming Captain Evans as his father. Hearing the name, Aral recalled Evans as the man who once summoned his mother for a demon hunt, though the son looked nothing like him. Evans had been harsher and worn. The redhead bristled at his father's name, insisting the captain was both a master swordsman and a respected leader, then sneered that he couldn't see how Aral's mother could be the village's greatest. Irritated, he asked if Aral agreed, and Aral answered without hesitation that his mother was indeed the most powerful person in the village. The redhead smirked, boasting that children inherit their parents' strength, so he would crush Aral and prove his family's superiority. With over a year of swordsmanship and mastery of intermediate techniques, he was certain the boy stood no chance. Aral, never one to back down, accepted the duel, and their clash far surpassed the previous match, impressing even the redhead, who admitted it was more even than expected. Still, he had a hidden trump card. Aral noticed his opponent's anger made him reckless, leaving openings, and he moved in for a counter. But the redhead unleashed his twin blade slash. Aral blocked the first strike, yet the second tore through his divine protection. Reeling, Aral couldn't understand how two blows landed at once. Seizing the chance, the redhead sneered that a classless like him could never guard against such a skill, though he admitted the boy had guts. Days later, Aral was jolted awake by his little sister, who became the victim of an accidental headbutt in his half-asleep panic. At breakfast, she pleaded with him not to push himself so hard, promising one day to create a peaceful world for him. Her words made him laugh warmly before leaving. Afterwards, she worried about his nightly training, always returning battered. To comfort her, Farah showed a chest full of broken swords, proof that Errol's hardships only sharpened his strength. His sister, though reassured, vows to make the world better for him, while Errol devotes himself to training and masters the twin blade slash, a move he learned by enduring blows on purpose. When a goblin ambushes him, he swiftly ends it with that very technique, but a chilling roar from the forest warns of greater danger. As the village fears an attack, Errol rushes to the guards until a child's desperate scream pulls him into the woods where he finds the wounded redhead and a towering hobgoblin surrounded by slain goblins. Realizing that timing and footing are key, Errol steadies himself and perfectly executes the twin blade slash, defeating the monster. He then offers his own flask of holy water to restore the redhead's protection. Grateful but curious, the redhead demands to know how a classless fighter mastered such a skill. Errol explains it was relentless training and observation during their duel, where he endured strikes to learn the technique. Declaring he still wants a rematch, he challenges the redhead, who finally agrees. With no hesitation, the two clash again, unleashing the twin blade strike simultaneously. Errol's technique carried a hidden third slash, so when both fighters' strikes canceled out, his final blow broke through and hit its mark. The redhead scoffed, pointing out the move was called twin blades, not triplets, but Errol shrugged, saying names didn't matter, only how the skill could be shaped to serve better in battle. The redhead refused to take advice from someone without a class. He remembered his father, Captain Evans, who had taught him fencing and swore he could not lose to a boy the goddess had deemed unworthy. Determined, he raised his sword again, but despite vowing to guard against that extra strike, he fell for it once more and lost. Gasping, he asked if Errol had gone easy on him before, because this time his speed was unmatched. Errol shook his head, explaining that the redhead's strength had forced him to face his own limits and grow beyond them. Days later, over tea, Farah told the family that Evans' son had departed for Bria, the City of Swords, where she herself had once joined a guild before marriage. The news stirred something inside Errol, who longed to follow a similar path. Yet the doubt lingered. How far could someone without a class really go? Even so, he knew the only way to learn the answer was to try. Calmly, she explains her class demands agility and freedom of movement, yet the argument quickly heats up. Before it escalates, orcs ambush the carriage, led by a towering orc king. The driver urges the adventurers to fight, but the barbarian refuses even when a mother begs for help, shoving her aside. The dual-blade swordswoman too abandons the carriage. At last, a silent young man who has yet to speak steps forward. As his hood falls back, the others realize it is Errol. His movements through the orcs are breathtaking, a dance of blades so fluid and precise it seems like art rather than combat. When he breaks free from dozens of enemies, the driver recognizes the legendary blade dance, a technique of the sword princess class, one said to belong only to women. Errol finally confronted the orc king, and with a blazing leap, drove his blade through the creature's skull before calmly telling the driver to resume their journey to Bria so he could continue training. The driver, still stunned, suggested Errol might already be strong enough, but a curious boy asked what class such a warrior belonged to. When Errol revealed he had none, everyone was left in disbelief. 5 years earlier, he had trained in the yard with his mother, who noted that his strike resembled the twin blade slash. Though doubtful a classless child could perform such a feat, she listened as he explained he had mastered it through practice alone and sought to learn more, asking her to teach him sword princess techniques so he could one day travel to Bria and understand them fully. Smiling proudly, she declared him a prodigy. Snapped back to the present, Errol arrived at Bria, the City of Swords, where the boy marveled at the countless warriors and advanced classes around them. Curious about the driver's knowledge of swordplay, Errol asked, and the man revealed he was no ordinary coachman, but a holy knight in disguise. Errol sometimes takes carriage work to clear his mind, though he never imagined living that way. The driver suggests he join a guild since swordsmen in Bria earn their keep through tournaments that require guild membership. Errol agrees, wanting to fight the strongest warriors, but the knight warns him that some guilds hide ruthless sides. After parting, Errol explores the city, spotting knights recruiting for the cavalry and women welcoming all blade users to the sword road. Suddenly, a girl bumps into him, acting as if she had chased him for ages, shoving a contract and demanding he join her guild. Errol dismisses her, but she clings to his belt, prompting him to remark only a rookie guild would recruit so desperately. She insists her guild is famous and even tempts him with a date, but Errol, annoyed by her arrogance that reminds him of his sister, rejects her. When asked about the strongest guild, she grudgingly admits it's the Black Blade, renowned for its 8-rank swordsmen. Errol follows the stranger's directions to a grand mansion, introducing himself to the guard and declaring his wish to join the Black Blade. Directed to the reception desk, he lines up with other candidates for the admission exam, eager for his chance. When asked about his class, he admits to being classless, earning ridicule since only advanced swordsmen are accepted. The clerk dismisses him despite his insistence that he could pass the trial, unmoved by pleas for an exception. Attention shifts as an A-rank swordsman enters, impressing the crowd while Errol is left ignored and unwanted. Every guild he approaches rejects him outright, denying him any chance to prove himself. In despair, he recalls the letter of recommendation from his mother, urging him to seek her old guild for support. Just then, the persistent girl reappears, inviting him again. When he refuses, she shocks him by kneeling, begging, and even promising to lick his boots if he accepts. Unmoved, Errol rejects her once more and storms off, leaving her humiliated, yet still urging him to seek her old guild for support. Just then, the persistent girl reappears, inviting him again. When he refuses, she shocks him by kneeling, begging, and even promising to lick his boots if he accepts. Unmoved, Errol rejects her once more and storms off, leaving her humiliated, yet still unwilling to give up. Since they were already near her guild's hall, she insisted Errol visit. The vast building impressed him, though its emptiness raised questions. Reluctantly, she confessed their decline. Once great, Dragon Fang was now among the city's weakest guilds. Still, she vowed its glory would return under the King of Two Swords. That name struck Errol, reminding him of his mother's stories about her guild's leader, who had named it after his own technique. Realizing this was her guild, Errol agreed to join. She led him inside where her father sat slouched with a bottle. Scolded for drinking again, the man missing an arm dismissed Errol at once, declaring the guild doomed. The girl explained his past as one of Bria's two greatest swordsmen, ruined by his injury and drink, and assumed Errol would walk away. Instead, he shocked her by insisting on joining, since no other guild wanted him. Elated, she produced the contract. He signed. When she saw his class listed as none, she thought it a joke. Errol proved it genuine with documents, yet she unsheathed the sword and warned him to tear it apart if he valued his life. Every guild member, after all, needed at least basic sword skills. The kid stood there arrogantly, and Lilia refused to believe he was truly classless. Her shouting brought another woman into the room. "Lilia, what is going on?" she asked. Lilia clung to her, furious that what she thought was a promising recruit turned out useless. At her words, Raina looked closer at Errol and recognized him. They had trained together as children in the same village. Errol searched his memory, certain he'd recall a woman this beautiful unless she was Evan's daughter, his old red-haired rival. Raina confirmed it, explaining she was indeed Evan's daughter, and teased that he didn't recognize her because her hair had grown. Errol smirked, hinting other things had grown too. Lilia then realized that this must be the classless boy Raina once confessed she couldn't defeat. Without hesitation, Raina challenged him to a rematch. On the training grounds, she opened with the same move from years ago, Twin Blade Slash. Errol expected to counter as before, but this time her strike broke through and hit. She declared her growth and proved it by planting into the ground a sword 5 times heavier than normal, her brutal strength skill making her a fearsome swordswoman. She pressed forward, raining heavy blows that forced Errol on the defensive. Realizing she had advanced to a higher swordsman class and he'd lose if he kept blocking, Errol pulled back to gain distance. Errol judged her speed and felt no real threat. Provoked, Raina charged recklessly, striking an illusion as her opponent appeared behind her and cut through with impossible skill. She couldn't believe he had mastered the shadow technique, a feat beyond even veteran swordsmen. Exploiting his speed, Errol landed another hit, but her divine protection and courage skill negated the damage. With no choice, he unleashed the counterattack technique his mother had taught him, turning her own strike back and winning the duel. Humiliated, Raina fled the training grounds in tears after begging for this rematch. Lilia then welcomed Errol into the guild, feigning that she had trusted him all along. When he asked why the guild seemed broken, she whispered about their crushing debt and the coming battle tournament that could save them. 3 members were required, and with Raina bound by loyalty to Lilia's father, who had once given her a home, they barely met the minimum. Still, facing 5 opponents worried her. Errol, however, declared it the perfect chance to hone his skills, the very reason he had come to Breccia. From the doorway, Lilia's father listened silently before leaving, moved by the boy's determination. The next morning, Errol wakes and remembers he joined his mother's guild. After preparing, he heads to the hall where 2 teammates are already waiting. Joking that it's been forever since he slept in a real bed, he claims he slept like an angel. When he spots Raina, he figures she's still upset about her loss. Once everyone arrives, Lilia announces that their guild now meets the member requirement and will register for the championship this weekend. Winning could restore the guild's finances. The event is a knockout tournament. Each guild loses when all members are defeated. With 3 to 5 participants per team, everyone present will fight as Dragon's Fang adventurers. Raina doubts they can win, but Lilia reminds her they have 2 B-rank swordsmen, making victory possible. Curious, Errol asks about rankings. Irritated, Raina explains that ranks go from D to A, showing a swordsman's strength. Lilia adds that out of Brescia's 500 swordsmen, only about 20 are A rank, while she and Raina are B rank, meaning Errol, who beat Raina, likely is 2. If they avoid A-ranked foes, Lilia says, they stand a real chance. Matchups will be announced soon at the Coliseum. Lilia goes to find out who their opponents will be, while Raina leaves to train. Errol casually calls out to her, annoying her, then asks if she has any abilities besides brute strength. Reluctantly, Raina reveals her skill, courage, which weakens divine protection. Curious, Errol grabs her hand and asks her to strike him so he can learn it. She refuses, confused by his logic, until he explains he must take hits without divine protection to understand courage. Raina insists abilities can't be learned, but Errol reminds her he copied her Twin Blade Slash. Convinced, she agrees and they train together. She doubts he can handle her sword 5 times heavier than normal, but he lifts it easily, saying strength comes from perseverance. He tells her his twin blade and shadow skills came from hard work, proving effort surpasses talent. Frustrated, Raina admits she's just an ordinary swordswoman but agrees to train him, warning she won't hold back. Errol jokes about having a strong woman on the team, earning a smack from her sheath. Soon after, Lilia bursts into the guild, gasping as she delivers grim news. Their next opponents are the city's top guild, Black Blade, led by Jorg and backed by 8 A-rank swordsmen. Refusing to back down, she pushes for non-stop training until the tournament, though her confidence falters upon hearing Arel may have been injured during Raina's training. When the day comes, Errol still appears, wounds and all. Outside the Colosseum, they overhear bets on the Dragon's Fang versus Black Blade match, with nearly everyone favoring Black Blade since Dragon's Fang hasn't competed in years. Furious, Lilia tries to argue, but Raina stops her. Arel, surprised people can bet on fights, listens as Lilia mutters their odds are 20-1. Undeterred, she boasts she's wagered everything, even the guild house, believing victory will restore their honor. Losing means ruin, but she's resolute in defending her father's legacy. Suddenly, mocking laughter rings out. It's Jorg, the shrewd leader of Black Blade. Jorg mocks his old rivals for recruiting a classless man, saying he's only there to support them because it's pitiful how far they've fallen. He set up this guild match so Lilia and her Dragon Fang could earn money if she defeats several A-rank swordsmen. Laughing, Jorg taunts her, but Lilia boldly declares victory will be hers. Amused, Jorg praises her courage and warns they'll see how true it is once the battle starts. The duel between Brescia's strongest guild and its once great rival excites the city. Checking the roster, Earl notices Jorg isn't fighting and assumes an easy win, but Lilia reminds him every foe is rank A calmly. Earl says it's a chance to learn new skills, irritating Lilia, who insists their guild's fate depends on this match. He quietly tells her she's the one who made the bet. The first match begins, Geo of Black Blade versus Errol the classless. The crowd falls silent, stunned that a man without a class dares to fight. Geo scoffs that fighting a weakling isn't worth his time, but reluctantly accepts. With blinding speed, he lunges, seemingly piercing Errol, only to hit a shadow clone. As shadows surround him, Geo charges recklessly, unaware Errol can summon 4 at once. Struck from behind, he collapses as Errol calmly notes his mother can summon 5 with ease. The crowd erupts when the announcer declares Errol the winner. Raina is shocked he defeated an A-rank swordsman so easily, while Errol simply reflects that his thrust still needs work. Watching, Jorg's grin fades. In his next duels, Errol blocks a fierce swordsman's attack, counters with twin slashes, then outmaneuvers a lightning-fast kicker using his shadows, ending the fight with a swift strike from behind. Raina is stunned by what she sees, while Lilia grows ecstatic, convinced Errol might defeat everyone since she herself couldn't. Errol's next opponent, a tank wielding a giant shield, boasts near impenetrable defense through divine protection. Calm and composed, Errol knows he must slowly break through it. Unable to hit Errol, the shield-bearer accuses him of lying about being classless. Errol replies that effort can achieve miracles, but the man laughs, saying no one can surpass someone with a class. Trying to prove his superiority, the tank fakes a sword swing and spins his shield, but Errol reads the motion, his mother's hardest technique, and counters with a kick that disarms him. When asked how he learned it, Errol says he picked it up from his previous fight and proves it by striking the man's stomach with his shin. The opponent denies such mastery is possible instantly, but Errol explains that while true mastery takes time, imitation doesn't. Errol grabs the fallen shield, fuses it with his blink charge, and wins flawlessly once again. The crowd doubts his classless status, prompting the committee to confirm it through a crystal orb. He truly has no class. Cheers erupt, replacing disbelief. Lilia scolds Raina for not telling her how overpowered Errol is, swearing she'd have bet all her father's secret weapons if she knew. Fired up, she declares she'll marry him to restore her guild's honor. The final battle begins as Masamune, a master swordsman, steps forward, his curved blade gleaming. Is that a katana? Errol asks and Masamune nods. Raina suspects he's an Eastern samurai, a rare and deadly class. Even without drawing his sword, Masamune's aura exudes killing intent. Errol senses that one mistake could mean death. Calmly, Masamune reveals his plan to bait and end Errol with a death strike. Smiling, Errol charges in. The Black Blade had claimed Errol would fall the moment he struck, yet the classless boy trusted his speed, rushing forward while Masamune's sword remained sheathed. Hesitant to use his shadows, Errol pressed on, dodging the deadly slash faster than the blade itself. Though Masamune was famed as the city's fastest swordsman, Errol had trained under someone swifter. He countered with a storm of piercing thrusts that struck Masamune's back, ending the duel and the tournament. Lilia gasped, witnessing the sword princess's most lethal technique. The announcer declared Dragon Fang Guild's victory as the arena roared. Most had bet on the Black Blade. Lilia and Raina, having backed Errol, celebrated their winnings with joy. When Errol exited the ring, Lilia lunged to hug him, but fell as he instinctively dodged. Raina nearly did the same, but pretended she meant it. Errol teased her to remove her armor if she really wanted a hug. Lilia boldly said she'd remove everything, only to hit the floor again after another dodge. From afar, Jorg watched in silence, vowing not to let this slide. That evening, after returning to the guild house, the group celebrated with drinks. Errol was surprised to learn that Lilia was old enough to drink, though she proudly insisted she was a grown woman. Still amazed that Errol had single-handedly defeated 5 ranked swordsmen from the top guild in the country, Lilia decided he was her way out of poverty and tried to seduce him by proposing marriage and promising to fulfill his desires. Errol calmly rejected her, saying he preferred someone like Raina instead. Raina blushed and scolded him for teasing her just to reject Lilia, but Errol was serious, asking why she thought he was joking. She reminded him that he once called her a man during their childhood sword fight, claiming she lacked womanly charms. Errol disagreed, clearly noticing otherwise. Lilia realized Raina had no idea how to use her charms and didn't see her as a threat, so she boldly began rubbing Errol's leg, saying he must be tired and inviting him to her room. Raina, flustered, told her to stop being indecent, but Lilia only smiled and said she was merely offering him a well-deserved massage. To her surprise, Errol says he'd rather get a massage from Raina, which actually means getting beaten up by Raina in the training ground as he struggles to learn her reinforcement magic that she uses effortlessly. Watching from the balcony, Lilia wonders if Errol even knows what a massage really is. The noise wakes her hungover father, who storms down, complaining that they shouldn't vent their frustration over losing before the tournament even starts. Lilia corrects him, saying they actually won against the top guild. Thinking their opponents must have sent weak recruits, he's stunned when Lilia adds that Errol beat them all alone and left them in tears. Shocked sober, he stares at the bruised Errol, questioning his strength. Lilia cheerfully reveals she bet on Errol and hit the jackpot, clearing their debts and funding the guild. Her father warns that if Errol's that strong, bigger guilds will steal him away. Lilia just smirks and says he can't be poached. She's planning to marry him. Errol refuses to do what's suggested and instead turns to Lilia's father, saying that while Lilia might be stubborn, at least she doesn't give up easily. His words clearly target her father, who glares at him dangerously, but Errol keeps going, telling him to stop sulking and act his age since he still has one hand to wield a sword. Enraged, her father grabs Errol by the collar and warns him not to speak about things he doesn't understand, declaring that a dual-wielding swordsman who can't dual-wield is just a waste of air. Errol argues that he disagrees, saying he's a classless swordsman still striving to rise. Her father shoves him away and storms upstairs. Lilia and Raina rush to Errol, worried, and Lilia apologizes for her father's behavior while thanking Errol for standing up. Errol admits her father is still incredibly strong despite his injury and thinks it's a waste for such talent to go unused. Determined, he vows to motivate Rod to take up the sword again. Hearing this, Lilia suggests he try nearby dungeons to gain experience. When Errol looks confused, Raina explains that dungeons are monster-filled underground caves packed with traps, perfect for training, gaining skills, and real battle experience before the sword god. Errol is confused until Lilia explains that the city hosts an annual tournament for the best swordsmen to prove their skill. She hands him a form to join, but to Raina's shock, Errol tears it apart. When Raina asks why, he says Lilia tried to trick him into signing a marriage certificate instead. Lilia laughs, saying it was just a joke, but Errol, fed up, puts her in a chokehold to teach her a lesson. The next morning, he wakes to find Lilia trying to assault him, dodges her, and ties her to the bed before leaving. Later, the group heads to the dungeon where Lilia explains the teleportation circles that allow travel only to previously reached levels. She claims to have reached level 12, while Raina reached 14. Errol wants to join Raina on the 14th floor, but Lilia says he must reach it first. Though disappointed, Errol agrees to her shortcut plan. Lilia then tries to separate him from Raina, insisting she isn't needed, but Errol refuses and insists Raina comes alone. On the first floor, 2 armored knights attack them immediately. Errol draws his sword and clashes with one while Raina takes the other. He's surprised by the knight's agility despite its heavy armor, but quickly uses his dash step to decapitate it, only to find the armor empty, animated by the dungeon's mana. The headless knight keeps moving, and Raina notes they feel no pain or weakness. Errol targets the legs instead, causing it to collapse, and Raina finishes hers too, warning they'll regenerate soon. Before advancing, Errol asks Lilia about her class, and she proudly says she's a fencer, teasingly offering to teach him in training or in bed, but he ignores her and moves on. As they approach the second level, they hear cries for help and find a bloodied man kneeling on the floor. Raina suggests taking him out, but he refuses, saying his injured friends are still trapped inside. He begs for help, and Lilia immediately demands payment, which he surprisingly provides from his gambling winnings. But Errol grows suspicious. Someone losing that much blood shouldn't even be able to walk, let alone guide them further. Errol realizes the blood and injuries are fake, but keeps it to himself, thinking it might get interesting. The man leads them to a hidden room where a trail of blood ends at a puddle with a single gold coin. Lilia, tempted, reaches for it, and a teleport circle suddenly activates beneath them. Raina instantly recognizes the trap as the man grins, saying he was well paid for this easy job, only to panic when he's teleported too. They find themselves on a floor deeper than the 14th, unknown even to Raina. The man trembles, saying this is where the sword god is said to dwell. A knight clad in rainbow-enchanted armor appears, making Lilia scoff at the sword god legend, but Errol senses real danger. He pushes Lilia aside just as the knight unleashes his slash powerful enough to shatter dungeon walls. Errol blocks the next attack, slammed into the wall but alive thanks to Raina's reinforcement training. As the knight darts back with incredible speed, Errol steadies himself and smirks, ready to test his limits. Errol's sudden move shocks his party as he uses Divine Step to close the distance and unleashes a rapid assault on the knight, whose defense barely holds. Forced to retreat, the knight triggers a gravity skill that crushes everyone to the ground. Everyone except Arel, who stands firm, remembering the same pressure from his harsh training with his mother. Back then, he could barely stand, but now he's stronger. He flips a gold coin to nullify the effect, creating an opening and using his strongest ability, Infinite Break, to shatter the knight into pieces. Afterward, he restores his strength with holy water, and the group exits the dungeon via teleportation. At a bar, Rod overhears 3 men boasting about tricking new Dragon Fang Guild members into a deadly trap. Furious, he smashes their table and demands answers, only for Jorg to mock him as a drunk. Realizing Jorg's involvement and fearing for his daughter, Rod attacks but is easily tossed aside, left in despair. Just then, Lilia enters with Errol and Raina alive and hungry. Overwhelmed, Rod embraces his daughter in relief. Raina exposes Jorg, saying his men confessed everything, but he denies it, claiming dungeon safety is each person's responsibility, a point Arel begrudgingly acknowledges. Rod vows revenge, but Jorg dismisses him as a washed-up drunk and leaves, while Arel silently wonders what new schemes await them. A few days later, Lilia receives a scroll listing the preliminary brackets for the tournament. Her heart sinks when she discovers she's in the same bracket as Arel, knowing she has no chance of winning or representing her guild. Arel, unfamiliar with the prelims, listens as Raina explains that due to the massive number of participants, the city holds preliminary rounds divided by dice rolls, with winners from each bracket advancing to the main tournament. When Arel checks the scroll, he sees that Raina is in a different bracket, and she quietly thanks the gods for sparing her from facing him, praying for an easy win. Arel teases her about her daddy issues, prompting Lilia to cut in, reminding them they need more dungeon training. Arel, tired of it, refuses, but Lilia playfully insists she needs a strong man to protect her. Raina, unimpressed by her act, decides it's time Lilia learns some independence. Before they can leave, Rod bursts in dramatically, hugging his daughter and warning her to stay safe, fearing Jorg's possible return. Seeing the worry in his eyes, Lilia promises to be careful and leaves, while Arel stands by, silently judging Rod's overprotectiveness. Rod insists he still has time to change and be a better, more protective father, but Arel only smiles, saying it's never too late to be kind before leaving. Weeks later, the prelims begin amid roaring cheers as swords clash and sparks fly. One by one, contestants are eliminated, and even Lilia loses before facing Arel. Disappointed, she sulks, wishing she had at least reached the finals. Arel, unfazed, tells her she worried for nothing since they were in the same bracket, and she would have lost to him anyway, making her even sadder. Still, she gathers herself and warns him to stay alert. The other finalist has a few tricks. Arel shrugs it off, confident he's seen everything in dungeon battles and doubts anyone can surprise him. Lilia insists the red-haired swordsman is a magic swordsman who strengthens attacks with mana, surprised that magic is allowed in a swordsman's tournament. Arel listens as Lilia explains that anyone in a guild can join regardless of class. The announcer then calls Arel's name, and Lilia wishes him luck. Arel steps into the arena and faces a red-haired girl who confidently declares herself a magic swordsman, warning him not to complain about her magic use since it's part of her class. He calmly replies that he doesn't mind. Whoever's stronger will win. As the match begins, she immediately hurls fireballs, forcing Arel to dodge, deflect, and cut through the barrage with sharp precision. Her mana seems endless, but he skillfully closes the distance and swings, only for her to block and counter with another fiery blast. Observing her seamless switch between melee and magic, Arel remarks how convenient it is. She arrogantly calls him a classless nobody, but he counters that she's a jack of both arts, mastering neither. Furious, she enchants her sword with flames, claiming only true magic swordsmen can do so. She slashes, sending flames chasing him, yet Arel calmly evades and strikes back, though her unpredictable attacks make it hard to predict her next move. Still, he acknowledges her talent, noting she must have trained hard. Arel soon stops moving and effortlessly demonstrates true mastery, deflecting every flame attack without taking a step. He remarks that while her swordsmanship may surpass Lilia's, she's still far from her potential, barely above NPCs. Humiliated, the girl loses focus, giving Arel the chance to unleash a twin slash that extinguishes her flames completely. Before she can react, he blinks behind her and knocks her out with his pummel. The crowd cheers as the judges declare Arel the winner of the 4th block, but his mind stays on the techniques she used, eager to learn them. Days later, the final tournament approaches. Lilia wakes her father, urging him to come cheer for Arel and Raina, both main tournament contenders. Still in bed, Rod refuses, uninterested. Lilia provokes him, asking if he's afraid of facing Jorg, which instantly sets him off before he regains composure. Softly, he admits that he tried wielding his sword again, but realized he's grown so rusty he might not even win the Sword God tournament anymore. Lilia scolds Rod for talking about fighting despite failing the prelims, reminding him that others train their whole lives and still can't do what he can. Rod finally agrees to go, and on the way to the stadium, he recalls training Raina back when he still had both arms, feeling warmth as he wonders about her performance. During the tournament, Raina trembles until Arel jokes about them fighting in the first round, easing her nerves. She playfully swings at him, and he catches her fist just as the announcer declares the opening match. Jor, the reigning champion, versus Arel, the undefeated classless prodigy. Before heading out, Raina wishes him luck while Lilia shouts for him to crush Jorg. But as Arel faces him, he freezes, Jorg's eyes glow purple, fangs and a horn forming as he appears possessed. Rod instantly realizes what's happening and warns Aurel to stay back after spotting Jorg's sword, revealing it holds a powerful demon. Jorg's voice changes, admitting he didn't expect to be recognized. Lilia is confused, but Rod explains the demon has taken over Jorg's body. Rod identifies the weapon as the sword god's original blade, cursed by the dying demon king and sealed long ago. The demon, calling himself Gelda, destroyer of mankind, declares his return after centuries of waiting. The crowd panics as Raina realizes the name isn't a myth. Screams fill the air as Gelda laughs, sealing the stadium within a dome of dark energy. Amid the chaos, Aurel stands calm, sword ready to fight. Gelda orders Aurel to flee, but Aurel refuses, confident he can win since the demon was defeated once before. The demon laughs, boasting his last defeat was by a sword god and that no such being exists now. Aurel replies that his mother was one and claims he can still prevail without the title. Mocking him, the demon's laughter halts as Aurel suddenly charges, forcing him to retreat. Shocked, the demon realizes Aurel is using the divine step, a move only sword gods can perform. Aurel's relentless strikes come from every direction, but the demon smirks, saying his sword emperor's body makes such attacks useless. He leaps and slams Aurel into the ground, thinking he's won, yet Aurel rises unharmed, hardened by his training with Raina. Gelda hesitates, attacks again, but Aurel deflects easily and unleashes his infinite break, a storm of slashes from all sides. Overwhelmed, Gelda trembles as he understands Aurel truly wields the power and skill of a sword god he once thought extinct. Before Aurel could form a plan, he struck the demon with a powerful slash, sending it crashing into the ground in a cloud of dust. The crowd cheered, believing the demon god was defeated. But Gelda lived on. The sword was his true body, and Jorg had merely been his vessel. Seeking a new host, Gelda lunged toward Rod. Aurel pushed Raina aside as Rod shielded his daughter. When the dust cleared, Rod held the demon's sword and seized Lilia, pressing the blade to her throat. Realizing too late that he should have destroyed the sword, not Jorg, Aurel cursed himself. Gelda warned him not to move, but Aurel stepped forward calmly, insisting Gelda couldn't harm Lilia. Raina watched in confusion as Gelda's hand froze mid-strike. Aurel declared that Rod's will was far stronger than Jorg's, making possession difficult. Rod drove the sword into the ground, freeing Lilia while resisting Gelda's control. With one final surge of will, Rod hurled the weapon to Aurel, who slashed it to dust, destroying the demon forever. If you're enjoying the journey of this series, please hit that like and subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any updates. All of your support helps me to keep bringing more high-quality recaps.